Hi, this is Shawnee Lavender, host of the Thriving Family Summit. I'm a conscious parents coach working with families worldwide to help them create more peace, joy, and connection in their families. Now, today I have a wonderful guest who I'm excited to share with you, and I know you'll learn a lot from, Rebecca Thompson Hitt. Now, before Rebecca and I get into our conversation, let me read you her bio so you'll know more about her if you don't already know who she is or are familiar with her work. A holistic family counselor, Rebecca Thompson Hitt holds a bachelor's degree in education and a master's in marriage and family therapy. Author of 3 parenting books, Rebecca began the Consciously Parenting Project in 2007. She had been struggling as a parent, trying the same old things, and true change only happened when she was able to let go of trying to make her son do what she wanted him to do and actually connect with him and his story. Finally, she could see her family was turning around, and she wanted to share what she had learned with others. Fast forward 9 years, and Rebecca has supported many families on their journeys of transformation, from families who have adopted children with special needs, families who had a difficult beginning or birth, to children who have been diagnosed with an alphabet of labels. Rebecca is able to see things from a new perspective that promotes healing in families, from the very smallest members to the grown-ups and couples. Rebecca, welcome to the Thriving Family Summit.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Well, we're happy to have you. And as we're doing with all of our interviews, we are inviting each of our visionaries to start off telling us about a time in their own parenting experience that really didn't showcase them at their best. So can you share with us a brief story? Tell us who's involved, sort of paint a picture of what was going on for us.
Sure. And I was laughing with you a little bit earlier. I have so many.
Yes, we do.
Which one shall I choose? But I was thinking about actually one of the times that I was really struggling the most as a parent, and I actually wrote about this in my book, and so I just thought I would share it
Great.
as well. So my son was about 8 years old at the time. He's 18 now, it's just crazy. But he was about 8, and he was so angry. He was he had so much going on, and I honestly didn't understand what he was so angry about. And I just kept thinking, you just need to just stop being angry. just stop it. Just chill out. Just stop. And I remember there was a moment that he picked up one of my boots and he threw it at me. And I remember standing there having no idea what to do. My first impulse was I went and I started to tower over him. No, you can't do that to me. And he just he just completely, continued being angry actually. And, started shouting things at me. And I just took a step back and I thought, I have absolutely no idea what to do here. I have a degree, a master's in marriage and family therapy. I was a teacher. I have an education degree. And I just felt completely overwhelmed, over my head, had no idea how to connect with this kid. But I knew that what I was doing wasn't working. And I knew I had to find a different way. But, the things that I was doing were the things that I grew up with. These were the things that my parents did. It didn't really work for us either, but, I'm sure it's what their parents did. Yeah. And so it was a moment for me of really recognizing and it began my journey. It really began my, okay, there must be another way. I don't know it yet, but I need to figure it out for him and for me, because this feels horrible.
Yeah, I love the picture of like the emotional sense you painted there for us of that overwhelm, just that sort of, okay, I don't know, I'm clueless. And like you said, even with this degree and this background, that you had that point of, I don't know, and that sets you on that journey. So do you think, even if the details are different, do you think the story you just shared is a common one that parents out there face?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear from parents all the time who just are at their wits' end. They don't know what to do. They're in that space
Mm.
of, I love this child, but I do not like them right now. And I
Mhm.
do not know how to connect.
Yeah.
I just know that it doesn't feel good. And
Mm.
I'm feeling powerless and overwhelmed and, confused and angry.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so do you think that stress and struggle, that's part of what we're talking about today, is that stress and struggle are part of a sort of natural, like, okay, yes, that's natural, that in and of itself isn't the issue? Or do you think that stress and struggle actually aren't normal? What's your take on that?
So, I think in our purest form, I think that we're meant to be in connection. Things
Mm.
are meant to feel good. And I think that stress and struggle is a sign that we're out of balance, we're out of
Mm.
alignment. And
Yeah.
I think that it's very common,
Mhm.
very,
Mm.
very,
Mhm.
very common in our culture that we
Yeah.
are often in that state of stress and struggle. But what I see, and what I've seen since then in my own family and with the families that I work with is that, when we can recognize what the stress is and we can recognize what the struggle is and release whatever that is, whatever that
Mm.
story is about it,
Mm.
then there are still things that come up. It's not like, oh, utopia, now it's
Right.
bliss and we never have any problems. But what I see is that it's much more quickly that we move through it, that we don't
Mm.
get stuck in that stress and in that struggle in the same way. I think I was in stress and struggle for a good solid 4 years
Mhm.
when my son was young. And yes, we still have things that pop up, and the families that I work with, okay, I'm back again. I got this thing that came up,
Yeah.
but it's much quicker for them to work through it. It's much quicker for me to work through the things that do come up.
Mm. I like that a lot, because I think I see that when the clients I serve, that sense of like, okay, what do I need to know so I can stop this, whatever this is in that
Right.
particular family. And like what I'm hearing you say is that, yes, as we gain more awareness and we release some of the stories and the ideas that we have about how things should be, and whatever else is going on, that yes, then problems dissolve. And yet there's not this thing of, once you learn this, you will never ever
Magic
have. Yeah,
wand.
yeah, because I think that there is, for parents, both a genuine desire, because we'd love it to be like, can it be smooth sailing, all that, because who likes to struggle, right? None of us generally enjoy that. Maybe there are a few, but most people aren't coveting, hey, let me get some more struggle in my life. And yet there is also sometimes that false idea that gets put out there of, when you know this, you will never, as if we would be a robot.
Right.
And our children would be a robot. It's like we're always changing, especially our children, right? They're
Right.
growing and developing. And you've seen it, as you talked about. You went from an 8-year-old to an 18-year-old who at some level are two completely different people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And why? So you talked a little bit about this, but what else do you see in terms of the stress and struggle? You talked about holding on to stories. What else do you see as sort of the catalyst? Why does stress and struggle come up for us? Why is this happening?
Hmm. Well, I think one of the reasons is that we're human. So,
Mm.
we and I'm going to expand a little bit more on story because, we come into parenting with our own stories, our own experiences, the things that happened to us when we were growing up.
Mm.
And then we have an idea, we have an expectation of what we think parenting is going to be like.
Mm.
And then we have our children.
Reality.
and then we realize that some of those ideas of what we thought it was going to be like may have been accurate.
Mm.
Before I became a parent, I thought about, I couldn't wait to hold my baby and nurse and rock and look at their sweet face. And I've got those memories, making him laugh and the milk running down his face because he's laughing and nursing. And, like I have those memories. And yet I didn't expect all of the challenges that came up for me as a parent. I didn't expect, it's kind of like the collision of my story growing up and my son's story. And recognizing those places where, and sometimes they were beautiful, like making him giggle. And, those memories are, that's why I became a parent. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that parenting was also going to be this tremendous learning experience for me. And when I surrendered that piece, that expectation that it was going to be smooth sailing and it was all going to be giggles, because it's not. Because the first time you try to get your toddler into the car, you realize that is just not reality.
Not lots of giggles usually there. Yeah.
Right. And so it's I think recognizing that this little person who's come into your life is here to teach you just as much as you think, maybe more even, that you think you're here to teach them. And so there's a struggle in there. And I think there's a struggle in, well, what is my role as a parent? There's what I grew up with was, the more authoritarian parenting style. And I didn't want to be that kind of a parent. So there was a struggle there for me because I had to figure out, well, then what does that mean?
Yeah. The not, like, I don't want this, but what do I want?
Right.
And how, and then once I find out what I want, how exactly?
Right. It's like reading Alfie Kahn's Unconditional Parenting. And I nodded my head the whole way through. Yes, this is so awesome. This is what I want. And then I closed the book and I said, I have no idea how to do this.
Yeah.
Don't even know where to start.
Yeah. I think I love that you pointed that out in terms of that sense of resonance that I think so many of us have, or in this generation, in this era of parents, that so many of us are having when we see ideas about conscious parenting and peaceful parenting. We're like, oh yeah, we want to sort of sink and luxuriate into it because, for many different reasons. I think one of which, though, is because even if we had really loving parents, there was different understanding then and different models. And so part of us is like, oh, I wanted that, I wanted that. So that inner child craves it. And also we really, because we love our children so much, it's like, I want to give that to them. And there is then that gap, the knowing doing gap, I like to call it. It's like, okay, I know this piece. Now how do I do it? It sounds appealing. And you also talked about something that really caught my attention in terms of the surrender. And I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I think that most parents at some level would not equate parenting with surrender. Like there's sort of this, no, as a parent, I'm supposed to be on top of it and in charge and know what the hell I'm doing, all these things. So this idea of surrender seems almost antithetical to that. So that's my thought. So what are your thoughts on that idea?
Right. And I think that I think some people also start thinking of it's that parent who just says, fine, whatever, do whatever you want.
Right.
And that's not the kind of surrender that I'm talking about here.
Right.
So, because that really causes problems. What I see, because, our kids need us to be the parent. They need us to guide them. They need us to be with them. But I think it's the surrender that I'm talking about is that piece of I'm going to control everything and it's going to look like this. Mm-hmm. And that it's surrendering that. It's surrendering that to actually be in relationship with the child you actually have. Mm-hmm. To actually see the child who is here with you and be with them.
Yeah. And that's so little about control. I mean, I think what you just described, you said the word control, but it is that sense of we think of this view of parenting of, again, being in charge, having it all mapped out, knowing all the steps, and being the orchestrator, like playing God in a sense, like, okay, here's how things are going to go. And as you said, it's not saying, okay, I give up, I abdicate. It's
Right.
not checking out in that sense of surrender, but more so that, okay, here's what I've got. Here's what my family looks like. Maybe these parts meet what I thought it would look like. These parts, maybe I'm doing it on my own. I thought I'd have a partner, whatever the pieces are, to really surrender to reality and go with that and like follow that and pay attention to what's there and what's in front of you and navigate that. That's sort of my sense of it as far as an analogy. Like, okay, I'm not in charge of this river, and I can pilot the boat still down the river.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Because you still need a captain.
Exactly. It could be I used to be a raft guide, so I can tell you, if somebody's not in charge of the boat and or you have an inexperienced person like I once was in the boat, you get stuck and not a lot of fun.
Right.
So you also can speak to this, I think. So do you see this idea of surrender and working with the child you have? Do you see the challenge, or do you see that idea being more challenging as a child gets older?
Interesting question. I think that if you can master it when they're young, it becomes so much easier, because as they get older, they more have their own idea of the way the story is supposed to go. But my 13-year-old right now, he has his very definite ideas, which are very different than mine. And so, but yet we have a relationship. And I've learned to figure out what really matters. What do I need to pilot? This has taken me 18 years, but I think I'm kind of figuring it out now. Okay, this is mine. This is my responsibility. I need to be looking at the big picture, making sure that you're safe, making sure that you have your needs met, making sure, those kinds of things. You have a roof over your head. You've got, and I'm here to guide. And that's the conversation I've had with my 18-year-old a lot is, okay, you're 18, these are your decisions, but I'm here to guide. I'm here to just help you learn how to navigate your own boat. And there are going to be times where you mess up. You don't do it well. You overdraft your checking account, whatever it is. We all go through those things. And I'm not here to fix it for you. I'm here to guide. And if we can learn that when our kids are younger, there's more guidance that happens when they're younger. Obviously, there's a lot more involved in keeping a 2-year-old safe.
Especially with some 2-year-olds,
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
I love that. Sounds so graceful in terms of this idea and so much more. I think this is a paradox that I found too, because I'm a recovering control freak. Sometimes my husband will say I'm not recovering very well, but nonetheless, that's in some of my background. It served me for certain reasons, and it was, a good trait in some ways. Sure. And yet it's a thing that's caused some struggle in my parenting journey. And one of as you were describing that, part of the picture I got was this idea of, it is that sort of misnomer or backwards thinking where we think, oh, if I control more, then it will be like, just let me be in charge and we'll do this. And yet that really, it takes so much energy. We don't really ever have control over another human being, even as an infant. It's like,
right.
We're not trying to control them. We remember that from like the times they won't sleep, right? We're like, just go to sleep. What can I do? But that idea that, again, that many of us come to parenting with, that it's like, if I just work harder, try harder, get things together, then this thing will go. But it is that idea that, it's like finding out whose responsibility is what. And I love how you described it, like, okay, keeping you safe, making sure your needs are helping you get your needs met, having these ideas about, here's my responsibility, here are your responsibilities. So it really is this delegation and this opportunity, like you're saying, from very early on for children to start to see, yes, they have power, they have influence, they have choice, so that as they grow, that feels more natural to them. And as you said, you've already built that kind of relationship with them where that's what they're used to you being, as a guide, not a dictator.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just sounds so graceful and fun. And again, it's not devoid of stress, but you've
No.
set up that relationship. Sort of the structure is there, that it's like, oh, this is how we relate to each other. So what do you think parents, so if parents, there's all different kinds of families out there viewing the summit. So some, maybe in more smoothness, some may be in a rockier place. But what would you say for a parent who's resonating with these ideas and saying, yeah, okay, I like it. The how. So can you start to give them maybe a how that they can start to incorporate, to play with and bring these ideas more into their life?
So I think one of the tools that I use quite a lot in my parenting, and I wish I had known it when my kids were younger, because I think it would have helped me to recognize more about where I was, and as well as where my kids are. And so sort of how and when to respond to what kinds of things. I learned this from Dr. Bruce Perry, who is a brain researcher, neuroscientist, psychiatrist. He's amazing. Yeah. He wrote a book called The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, and he wrote another one since then that I have not yet read, but I intend to. But I took a training with him, and one of the things that he was talking about are different brain states. And I was fascinated by this idea because I was really confused about my own seemingly erratic behavior, shall we say, as a parent. Because sometimes I was so together. Sometimes things just went so smoothly, and then other times I felt like I was just a maniac. And, where did that even come from? Why did my mother just come out of my mouth now, here? Why? And then why did my kids sometimes seem so together and cooperative and happy, and why sometimes did they completely not be able to understand a single sentence or word that I was saying? No. Don't understand. No comprendo. And so this tool really helped me. And so I wanted to share it with the audience, with you all today, because I think if you haven't heard it, and even if you have, I have parents who are still going, oh, I get that now. So listen again. So I call it my brain stoplight. And my brain stoplight is, it's a really simple tool because we all know what a stoplight is. So no matter where we are in our brain, we're going to be able to utilize some of this information. So green is, obviously, when you come to a green light at an intersection, it means go. So green is your thinking brain, and you can literally put your hand right here. It is in this region of your brain. And it's important because I'm going to be talking about different regions. You're literally in a different part of your brain when these different things are happening. And that was very helpful for me. So when you're in your thinking brain, this is when you are on top of it. You have got it. You've gotten everybody's lunches ready, and everybody got into the car, and it's, you're singing. Oh, I'm so good at this parenting thing today. I'm on my game. And your kids, you might see that they're cooperative and they're happy, and maybe they're singing and twirling around in their little dresses, or whatever it is that you see that they do on green. And I want you to really pay attention. What do you look like on green? What does it feel like in your body when you're on green? And what do you see from your kids? And then you can even ask them, what does it feel like in your body when you're on green? Because they might say, oh, I feel light. Oh, I feel so happy. Whatever it is. But we want to help them identify it too. Because this is part of that process of recognizing when you're not struggling. And what does that feel like? What does that feel like? Because we miss the felt sense. We're so heady in our culture. We have this body. And our body is communicating to us, and our body is communicating the good as well as the not so good. So green is that place to have a conversation. So if something has happened and it hasn't felt good, wait till you're back on green and have that conversation. This is the part to explain something. This is the part where you explain something and your child says, "Oh yeah, I get it." And then they can expand upon it. "Oh, you mean this." And you think, "Oh, my child is so smart."
Yeah.
Wow. Because literally they have access to their full IQ in this part of the brain. And so do you. Yeah. You are as smart as you are going to be when you are in this part of your brain, which is why it feels so good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we don't always live here, as I'm sure you guys have all figured out by now. And when we move out of this part of our brain, we move into the emotional brain. And so it's easy enough to explain. It's about right here. Okay. And the emotional brain, we lose access to about 25 IQ points when we are in this part of our brain. So let's say you have an average IQ of 100. I'm sure that you guys are all smarter than that, but it's just easier for the math.
Yeah.
Math is not my
I like easy math, not mine either.
There's a reason I talk to people. Anyway, so we're at 100 here if we have an average IQ. So now we're at about 75. So if you all remember Forrest Gump, Forrest Gump was about that. I mean, he's lovable, he's sweet, he manages to do all kinds of amazing things. I mean, it's not like we're completely a box of rocks here, you know, but we're not able to problem solve in the same way. But we still can. We still can find our way through. But one of the things that I think, especially because we're so heady in our culture of, you know, okay, we got to think this through, we miss that this emotional brain, when our kids are there, that's the place we can really connect deeply with them. When we say, "Wow, I wonder how you're feeling about that right now. Looks like you had a hard day." When we can acknowledge that's where they are, that is also a great way of releasing struggle. It's like, okay, I'm not going to fight with you right now. I'm not going to make you clean your room. I'm going to just be with you right here because I can see you're on yellow. So yellow light, when we see a yellow light in an intersection, we have two choices, right? And so we can either slow down and stop. And when we do that in parenting, this is where we get really smart. This is where we're brilliant. These are like some of the best parenting moments. We can't always do it. Don't put that expectation on yourself. Yeah. But when you can, you know, this is the time to pull them over to the couch and sit down and snuggle for a few minutes. This is the time to say, "Hey, you know, what can I do to help you? Can I get you a drink of water? Can I, you know, how can I connect?" is the question on yellow. How can I connect? So the other choice on yellow is to not slow down, and we kind of speed up. We try to race through the intersection, and, you know, inevitably we're going to end up on red, which is what happens a lot of times when we speed through yellow. So now we're in this literally back part of our brain, our survival brain. So our fight, flight, or freeze response. And this is, we're kind of on autopilot. They've done neural scans, MRIs and things, and there's actually almost no neural activity happening in this part of your brain. So this is the part where whatever happened to you, this is the part where your mother's voice or your father's voice comes out of your mouth and you're like, "Oh, I said I would never do that." Yeah. But it's because you're not thinking anymore. And you lose access to about 50 IQ points. So you're about 50. So you're right above a box of rocks is really, you know, and I mean that in the best,
nice rocks even.
Yeah. Like I mean that in the best possible way, you know? Yeah. But we're not thinking, we're in survival. We're trying to protect ourselves, and our kids are in that space too. So they're going to fight. They're going to freeze and get really quiet, or they're going to run away. And we kind of do the same thing too. Yeah. And so when you see those kinds of responses in yourself, it's not a time to be cruel to yourself. It's and sometimes it will have to be later. Right. When you recognize, "Oh, I was on red. What happened on yellow? What was going on there that maybe I could see next time? Maybe I needed something there on yellow. Maybe I was heading into red. But maybe if I had walked outside for a few minutes, I wouldn't have gone on red, and then I can come back and be with my child and try that again." Yeah.
I love that model. That's work I do too. And you're right. It's like just knowing that, because I think our tendency, again, old parenting paradigm, was to label, bad behavior,
Right. Right.
pretty bad behavior. Oh, good behavior, from
Right.
us and our children. And so while recognizing that, okay, yes, I'm feeling frustrated, you know a label can help us, also, just like you said, it's just to go, oh, I might be here, what can I do? And oh, we're in that red, or we're in that yellow, so I can feel myself wanting to just push through it because it's time to go to school, or I have to do this. um, but like you're saying, as you get more familiar with that and recognizing for yourself, what is your green, yellow, and red look and feel like? What does it look and feel like, those states in your children? It is, I think, easier to separate. It's just like, oh, it's just a behavior. It's not they're bad or they hate me. It's, oh, they're here.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, what do I do now? So I'm so glad you shared that, because I think that it is such a valuable tool. And like you said, starting with it early. And I love the other piece, just want to add in, especially since you have a little bit older children, it is such a great tool for them to be learning from us,
Oh gosh,
so
yes.
that they're not 40 and 20,
Yes.
whatever, going, I've never heard of this concept before, but they really,
Right.
they know, like, oh yeah, I'm feeling, so they're in school maybe, and somebody has done something and they notice, oh, I'm feeling tense. Oh, I think I'm going into yell. It's like, what a great tool for our children, especially as I know everybody watching the summit wants them to be resilient and so able to fully live their lives and have big, wonderful lives. And this is such a tool for them, as they go through their own relationships when we're not by their side to be their guide. So thank you for sharing. And I love that you call it a brain stoplight, because like you said, we know that.
Right. Right.
Maybe we all
Right.
need to go back to driving school. But it's a good analogy. So you share that, and I want to tell folks about something else that you're sharing with them as a gift, because this is a wonderful gift, another practical tool that they can use. So Rebecca is gifting all of you Summit viewers with a PDF version of her first book, Consciously Parenting: What It Really Takes to Raise Emotionally Healthy Families. Now, just a quick aside, I've read this book. It's great. That's actually how I knew. I was like, who do I want to talk to for the summit? I was like, oh, Rebecca Thompson Hitt. She's one of them. So this book, for those of you who haven't read it, it's all about making the shift from focusing on behaviors, what we were just talking about a little bit, as our culture tends to teach us to do from the time we have our tiny babies first in our lives, to a focus on the relationship. And it's full of stories from real families who have found ways to connect, even when, perhaps especially when, their children's behaviors are difficult. So a great resource. Rebecca, thank you for that generous gift. And so folks, you can get that with the links you're provided, and please take advantage of that and do some reading. Take yourself back to driving school and read some stories. And again, you'll get to hear from other families, which is always nice to go like, oh yeah, it's not just me. And oh,
No.
other people have come through, to the other side. So Rebecca, thank you for sharing stories of, your own life and the ways you work with people, and some of the tools that parents can use to remove some of the stress, struggle, and shame from their parenting and family life. So glad to have you here today on the Thriving Family Summit.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have been here, and wish you a wonderful, wonderful success with all of this.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Bye now. This is Shawnee Lavender, wishing you many moments of joy and ease in your day. Thanks for being part of the Thriving Family Summit.